Well, hi guys, I'm here with Fresh Lobster. My name is Papi Chema, and we're going to have a little interview with him about the seasonal very competitive. So, Fresh Lobster, can you introduce yourself a bit? Just a bit?
Yeah, Fresh Lobster from Germany. Been playing this game pretty much since early beta. And like a mixture of competitive tournament grinding, some content creation, some shoutcasting, some coaching. Been very involved in LOR in a lot of ways.
Yeah, a very famous guy from lore. I think a very good player. I think that. So, I want to know what about your journey in the competitive seasonal tournaments? Did you get the top cut in the last few, I think?
hmm So in the first two seasonal tournaments, I did not make it because they still had that old Swiss round system, which was only 5 rounds of Swiss,
Yeah.
and you had to win them all. So went 4-1 in both, which was super frustrating. And then ever since they upgraded it to 9 rounds of Swiss, I went 7-2 in the 7-2, then 7-2, and then 8-1 in Swiss. And the first, it was top 8, then second place, then second place. So some improvement, some consistency. I'm very happy about it. Can't complain at all.
Of course. What do you think about that change that Riot make about the tournaments?
Well, I like it a lot. It's improved the consistency, basically. It's just like the more games you play, the more consistently the better player is going to come out of Swiss. Therefore, it gives the better players more opportunities to shine.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, of course, they shortened the timers, which was an
Yeah.
issue every now and
Yes.
then. But you can never have everything and make everyone happy. So I think it was a step in the right direction.
Yes, of course, I am agree with that. What was your last seasonal decks, and why did you chose those?
So for open rounds, it was Lee Sin, Nivea, and Sivir Demacia. Akshan Sivir Demacia. So Akshan Sivir Demacia is just the best deck in the game. It's pretty broken. It doesn't lose to anything pretty much, except for maybe the Sivir Ionia version. And Lee Sin is also like, if you pilot it well, is one of the best decks for sure. And I was not really expecting counters in the open rounds because only like the top 50 players or top 100 players or so would bring these in because it's such a high skill cap deck.
Yes.
Therefore, it was a very good, well-rounded pick. And then Anivia was just also like in tournaments, you can tech Anivia very greedily. And it worked out very well because aggro is going to ban Anivia anyway.
Yes.
So you can tech very hard for the mid-range matchup. So I ran triple Flash Freeze, triple Vengeance, 2 Runations, 2 Icevale Archers, everything to get rid of like Gangplank Sejuani, TF Swain, as Draven Lee Sin, that kind of thing. And then the only change I made for the top cut was exchanging Anivia with Lulu Zed. And a lot of people on my side on the bracket did not play TF Swain or as Draven or generally Bilgewater decks, which is Lulu Zed's worst matchup. Well, most of them got a bit greedy trying to counter some other stuff or going a bit off meta, and Lulu Zed kind of just beats everything.
Yeah.
Like beats all of those decks very hard. So Lulu Zed worked perfectly. It mostly soaked up the bans, which meant I could always play Sivir Demacia.
Yeah.
That deck just always wins.
All this information that you got are from ladder, or you make some kind of practice with some people. What do you prefer about that?
It's a mixture of both. Like you talk to people, you scrim with people and so on, but also, I mean, the best stats we have to objectively estimate a matchup is ladder stats, just because it's a big sample size. But you always take that with a grain of salt, because even in Masters, like Lee Sin has a bad win rate.
Yes, of course.
Although, like in the hands of the right players, it's one of the best decks around. So always need to be a bit careful with how to interpret it, but it's pretty useful to look at stats as well.
And what happened in the final game that you got? Why did you lose?
I I mean, the matchup was very interesting. I had.
Can you make that a context, please? The guys that didn't see the game.
Okay, sure. I already mentioned my lineup, and my opponent Owi brought a hard counter Lee Sin and Nivea Gangplank Sejuani lineup. And I ended up having Lee Sin in my deck. So they played Azir Aurelia, Tahm Kench Soraka, and Sivir Akshan Demacia. All three decks have like roughly 37, 38% win rate against Lee. To my surprise, my opponent banned my Sivir Demacia deck, although I think Lulu Z was better into all three of his decks. So we were basically in a situation where my Lee Sin needed to win one of the two unfavored matchups, and it didn't happen. So game one was super duper close against TK Raka. Unfortunately, my opponent got a Star Spring win condition. Like it was ridiculously close. If you haven't seen it yet, it's definitely worth a rewatch. It was like Star Spring win condition on the last card in hand to the exact point, like on the last useful card in hand at least. And like I was one damage on Lee Sin off of lethal because I didn't find an extra pale or so on, and he had two hushes, and it was crazy. So
I must stop you here because I want to know what do you think about Tahm Kench Soraka, because it's a deck that not many people take to this seasonal, and it's a deck that can be beaten by a lot of decks. I think with your lineup, it's very good. I think Tahm Kench Soraka.
You mean Tahm Kench is good against me?
Yes. I think that. Do you think that, or you think you could win?
I mean, yeah, no. Two of my decks beat Tahm Kench super hard. My opponent bans one of them, and then so I have one super hard favored matchup and one unfavored matchup. And I mean, Tahm Kench Soraka, it's always the same. I really dislike the deck mechanically. I think it's very unfun to play against, and it's never amazingly good. It's always just a meta call.
Yeah.
Like if people get too greedy, pick too many Anivia Lee Sin type of stuffs, then Tahm Kench Soraka is just a good bring. Yeah. I ended up very closely losing that first game, and then I was basically like, I knew it would get very hard from then on out. Because if I would have gotten Lee Sin through, then Lulu Z always wins one of two matches.
Yeah.
But then, so I lost the best shot I had. Then Lulu Z against Azir was an auto win. Like, that was very easy to play. So we were 1-1. But then again, it's Lee Sin against Azir Aurelia.
Oh, yes.
And I mean, I think we all kind of know how that matchup usually goes. My opponent had two Emperor's Deus in the starting hand and an Aurelia. And I found my second Eye of the Dragon a bit late. If I would have drawn that a bit earlier, maybe I would have had the mana to maybe fend off an attack. But my opponent's hand was just like really good. And yeah, it is what it is, like sometimes with card games.
Yes.
I mean, nothing technically went wrong. I think our lineups were very evenly matched. I just had to like be fortunate enough to get one of those two wins on Lee Sin. Like for my opponent to not have a very good hand in one of those two matches. It didn't happen, and I can't complain though. I ran pretty well all the way up to the grand finals.
Yes. However, you make an amazing performance in your tournament, and we want to know about your future in the competitive. What are you expecting from Riot and Lore, about you?
That's a good question. So World's Championships is coming up. I am planning to play in that. Afterwards, it's a big question mark. Like, I did do shoutcasting for the EU Masters tournament. I really, really enjoyed that. I will try to do that a bit more often, and also instead of competing. I will also still play some of the seasonal tournaments though, and the rest also depends on what opportunities arise. So if Riot continues to do more tournaments, or if it just stays the same with seasonals into Worlds, or it's all unknown. It's all a big question mark. It really depends on how good Worlds is going to go, and then I think Riot is going to decide how much like competitive scene they want to have.
Yes, that is a big question for all our players that want to get in the competitive. What do you expect from the Worlds? What do you think will be with the Bundle City, with the new release? of cards. Do you have a high expectation?
Yes and no. So I just think it's too many players for such a big event.
Yeah.
So the qualifiers are going to be super rough and super random. There's very little preparation time.
Yeah.
There's no chance to balance patch all of the new cards. It's like 10 days
Yes.
after release, right? The World's qualifiers are going to be played. So I hope it's a big event that is entertaining to watch and that draws a lot of new people and viewers and so on to the game. And I hope it gives people something to play for. It is going to be very random, though, I think. Like,
yes.
Cutting down from 64 people to just 5 on EU is super rough.
Yeah.
And it's a bit like anyone can make it, but anyone can also lose.
Of course.
And it's going to be the same on the last day, I feel like. So
feels like the first tournament with 5-0 you can pass. It's like something like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be very random on who actually advances and who wins the whole thing. But I mean, I think everyone who made it so far, who made it to Worlds in the first place, also deserves it. So I'm just going to be in for the ride. I'll prepare, try to find some good decks and play well. But as with card games, it always is like, whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, that's true. Well, Fresh, thank you for your time. Do you have any words for your audience? I don't know.
Well, thanks for having me. Nothing right now, really. No, it just I hope everyone tunes into Worlds. I hope everyone's excited about Worlds. It is going to be a big event, and I hope it will be a success.
Yes, thank you again, Fresh Lobster, for this interview. I really appreciate that. So thank you guys for seeing this interview too, and goodbye, and thank you for watching.